Brakti Yahawu, Brakti Yahushai, Brakti Yahawu, Brakti Yahushai, Brakti Yahawu, Brakti Yahawu, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rachakadash. The belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, True Well. Salutations to the whole for the light that day. Akim to Zadakim, that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. I'm the priest Shaman. This week's topic is going to be entitled They Caught Charlie Kirk's Killer. I'm just staying on this topic because, again, the implications, like I did the first lesson. I know a lot of people, when these things happen, get in an emotional state. And in an emotional state, you try to become your own independent journalist and investigator and lean on your feelings and get really wrapped up in the sensationalism that's going on. But often the best thing to do is just let these things play out. Let the information come out. You know, they got a name. The guy's Tyler Robinson. Young guy. You know, also another thing I noticed too is, like, when these sorts of things happen, often the simplest solution is the solution. You know, there was talks that he's a Mossad. It could be a Mossad Israeli thing and shit. Very complex theories. But the most simplest theory was there was just a guy that was pissed off with his views. Political views, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's never about ruling anything out, but you know, but yeah, I don't really get caught up in the very minute details and speculations and shit like that. I'll just think about the implications, and that's what this lesson is going to be about. What are some of the implications of what might happen with this event that took place? And we discuss what that the elites could use this for reasons to ban gun control, all right? This shit built up a lot of racial tension. You had a lot of jakes that was saying, fuck Charlie Kirk, pretty much. Some trolling, some serious. You know, you have the left, which is far more radical than the right in terms of the actions, right? Like, you look at this organizations associated with the left, like your Antifas and your BLMs. When one of theirs dies, it's riots and burning shit down. But the right is more like trying to do things in the confines of the law. Like, they'll say kill you, but they're gonna say put you death according to the death penalty in what state you are. You know what I'm saying? And I think what's happening is they're trying to provoke these right wingers, right, to pretty much be like the left, to where they're going around and doing mass shootings and killing and shit like that. But they really don't much go that route, because they're ideology is to be a conservative Christian, if you will, right? So they're more about locking the person up and these sorts of things. So they got the guy, you know, and let's see where shit goes from there. But yeah, you know, taking away guns, trying to put an end to those college speakings, because like it or not, those conservatives, they was having a lot of influence on people. You know what I'm saying? It was having a lot of influence on the younger generation. And that's the key. That's who they want. They want the younger generation. This is the book of 2 Ezra, chapter 15, verse 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Right? Woe, destruction, sorrows, pain, and anguish is what's coming to this world. It says, 15, for the sword, for their sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another. And this is what we're seeing with this whole division going on. Complete split in ideologies, you know. Different takes on what should be censored and what should not be censored. But, you know, you have class riots, class wars, ideological wars, race wars. All that shit could spiral out of what happened with this event. The assassination of Charlie Kirk. It says, and swords in their hands. So they're gonna have some form of weapons. Even if you ban or try to ban guns, they're gonna use any forms of weapons. You know what I'm saying? Because one thing you'll realize is the elites want this shit to pop off just as much as we do, you know, because in their mind, they believe order ab chaos, right? They're going to create the destruction and come up with solution. Even so, as far as after World War III, they're going to come back and rule the remaining population after they've shrunk it down to under 1 billion. So there's a lot of shit they want done, and we were like, yo, hurry up and do it. Number one thing is that RFID microchip mandate. Now, you had the guy that murdered the Ukrainian woman that said he had a chip implant in him, which I'm very skeptical of, because I'm like, what about the prior 14 arrests? Now, it can be true, but you know, hey, look, the son of Sam killer said, you know, a dog told him to do it, so I'm not just gonna fucking believe this guy because he said that, or because I want to hear that narrative. And with that said, you know, we got to be very much circumspect, you know, because you know, there's a video going around of a guy saying the shit was staged and the blood, like, but the thing with that is, if you start believing everything is staged, you have to really start, like, think like this, like, okay, so if that's staged, that means the FBI was involved, EMT was involved, the hospital's involved, the medic's involved, her boyfriend is involved. And when you start to think that line of thinking, you're like, wait a minute, there's too many points of failure, because when you deal with secrets, the less people you tell, the more easier it is to contain that secret. Also, the people on the bus have to be in on it. It becomes endless to the point where, like, no, that's, you know, you can't just fake it like that and not have this shit come out at some point, you know. So gotta be very, very skeptical. The same way we scrutinize the shit that we see on the mainstream, we have to have that same sort of scrutiny with these conspiracy videos, to the point that some of them shits is getting ridiculous. It's like people just get on TikTok and just say whatever. Oh, you know, look, the ring finger jumped from the ring finger to the pinky, and it's just like, my goodness, man, it's getting really annoying with the shit. But anyways, but that's the nature of things, man. That just leads to more confusion and more hysteria, more emotions, and everybody's just, you know, best thing to do is just step back and wait a little bit. The information will come out. You know, Most High does reveal everything. It says 16. It says, "For there shall be sedition among men." Right, and that's speaking of an uprising against the government. You know, and it seems at this point in our timeline that whoever's in power, there's going to be somebody speaking up against it. Whether you have a Democrat in power, you're going to have Republicans speaking against it, and if you have a Republican in power, you're going to have Democrats speaking up against the Republicans. So it's just like a constant state of nobody's going to be happy of who's in, because you have the left-right paradigm going on, right? It says, "They shall not regard their kings nor princes," and this is going into Jacob's trouble, and all hell breaks loose, and total anarchy, and this is going to happen because the system is going to break down, you know, and cops ain't going to be giving a fuck. They're going to be trying to protect their own families, you know, and the kings and the princes, that's what it's going into. Your kings, your different rulers, your mayors, your governor, people not going to be listening to them when all hell breaks loose, when the Most High turns this shit up even more. They're going to be worrying about protecting themselves and their families. It says, "They not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power." Right, but that right there lets you know that there's not going to be an official authority system, because meaning they're going to be killing, murdering, and that's just what it's going to be. Nobody's going to be there to lock them up and put them on trial and shit like that, because all hell and pandemonium is going to be let loose here in America. It says, verse 17, "A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able." Look, here in New York City, there's bridges everywhere. And if you're not in the Bronx, which is connected to land, if you're in any other borough, man, and shit kick and they close them bridges up, you're fucked. You know, imagine being trapped on Manhattan with no bridges, no escape routes. Even if you're trying to escape, right? Let's say a catastrophe happened and you're trying to escape, there's going to be a shit ton of bottlenecks, man. If everybody's trying to leave at once, this place has damn near 8 million people in it, man. This city is, and I mean, look, depending on where you're at, the obstacle is going to be very much different. But that, I'll tell you what, in major cities, that's going to be an obstacle. You ever see LA traffic? Goddamn. So imagine when all hell breaks loose and everybody's on that same traffic. You know, it's going to be just like the LA fires. People just had to leave their cars and shit. Everything was just jammed up. You know, so the times that we're speaking of, it's gonna look like some shit you see in them movies, you know, which a lot of those Hollywood directors and writers are what you call lesser luminaries that have inside scoops on the agenda. Why do you think The Simpsons always predict shit? You know what I'm saying? They have insider info, if you will, all right, of some of the things that they want to implement. A man shall desire to go says a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, for because of their pride the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. You know, and hey man, the book of Isaiah speaks about knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability of thy times. That's what we're gonna need. Hey, look at even this situation now with this dude getting shot in the neck. You see how emotional and hysterical people got and fearful of shooters and shit that could pop up out of nowhere. Imagine the level of hysteria that's going to be happening when the Most High really lets loose these plagues that are coming to America. For because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. It says, a man shall have no pity on his neighbor. Right, they're not going to give a fuck, man. Okay? The scriptures tell you in the book of Matthew that the love of many shall wax cold. You already got people like saying, look, this guy should get the death penalty. You know? And if they do give him the death penalty, then you're going to have the left saying, well, we should kill another person. Yo, this shit is turning up. You know? This shit is turning up. Right in front of our eyes. And with that said, you know, we have to be very particular in the things that we say in these videos that we do. You know? Don't say incriminating things. You know, that's how come we say, you know, we never condone anybody taking things into their own hands or, you know, try to commit any acts of violence, because that's not what we're about. We're just about teaching His word. And we always tell you to stay away from them camps that's out there in the streets with guns and shit like that, or trying to tell you that we're a militia and these sorts of things. Those are agent provocateurs, all right, whether willingly or unwillingly, you know, because the times that we're coming in, guess what? They're gonna start. If you speak in a certain message, if you speak in anything against this government, you're gonna start being pinpointed, man. All right, and I've been saying in the spirit, this Israelite thing is gonna become more and more mainstream, all right, and they're gonna be doxing people, look into a lot of shit. So when they play back these videos, you want to make sure that, you know, the things that we said aren't incriminating. That's just, you know, using wisdom, you know, on and off the camera. Be a law-abiding citizen and pay your taxes. Do what you got to do. You know, just preach the word, because in time, the Lord is going to get His glory. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to take shit in our own hands. It says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for the great tribulation. Behold, saith the Most High, I will call together all the kings of the earth. Okay, well, that's it right there. Let me go to this. Jeremiah chapter 30 verse 7 reads, it says, alas, for that day is great, so that there is none like it. Jacob's trouble. All right, the Most High is going to turn up the stove, all right, and bring in a day up here in America in the likes of which we've never seen. And it's going to wake up a lot of you Israelites. The book of Hosea 5:15 says, in their affliction they shall seek me early. When Jake's back is against the wall or crazy shit is happening, that's when they humble themselves and try to seek the Heavenly Father. And a lot of these Jakes, and we seen it with COVID when they shut everything down, you know, the apostles' videos blew up. Like, everybody was tuning in, you know. Remember that the brother out there in Hawaii, Yahawada, right? When the missile thing happened, had like 41,000 views. So what's crazy is they're going to be trying to tune in, and it really depends when the Most High, you know, declares that family to the word. They're going to be trying to dig and dive for videos, looking for live streams and uploads, trying to get answers. And it could possibly well be that we're not out there, the videos aren't going up because the famine of the word began. And just like I said in the last lesson, I'm saying it now, get this truth while it's available. We don't know at any moment, man. At any moment, a cyber attack or a drastic event could happen, and you're not able to get this knowledge. All right? And if you're not able to get this knowledge, you won't be stable in those times. You'll be unhinged. It says, alas, for that day is great, so that no one is like it. It is even a time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Right? The he being saved out of it is the elect, man. All right? That's why we do what we do. We don't walk around with no body vest or Kevlar or none of that shit. We just teach the word and walk in faith. And when all hell breaks loose, not every member of the elect is going to have arms or something like that. If you have your own firearms, it's your business. You go about that with wisdom. But, we don't even tell brothers, like, you need that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't. All you're going to have is the faith of the Lord. And that's all we're leaning on. And if we're of the Most High, we're going to be saved. So that was just a quick little update. I figured I'd do a quick little follow-up that they caught the guy. To no surprise. Guess what? Edomite guy. Knew that yesterday. And just waiting for more to come out. I'm pretty sure his motives were probably more than likely political and ideological motives. Okay, so amen. With that, I'm gonna give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashim Rachak Kodash. That belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect that day. You Akim, Zadakim, that do the singing, that most truth and sincerity. Shalom.